Hello, this topic will be on H.2, add and subtract complex numbers. So remember, complex numbers are anything written in the form of A plus B times I, where I is an imaginary number and A is a constant or a real number. All right, so we're going to go ahead and simplify all of these, and they'll get harder as we go through it. Let's see, 9i is like a positive 9i. So positive 9i, take away 9i. Well, since these are opposites, that's just going to be equal to 0. All right, here we have a positive 5i, because there's no sign in front of it. Take away 8i. So this would be positive minus 8. The bigger sign is negative, so that would be negative 3i. You can type I or you can click I. Now in this problem, you have negative 3i plus I. How many i's are here? Well, there's just one. So imagine this is just one I. So negative 3 and a positive 1. The larger number is negative, so it's going to be negative. And it's bigger by 2. Since these both have an I term, that's negative 2i. Just like combining like terms. Negative 2i. All right, this one's a little bit trickier. Here you have negative 2i, positive 6i, and positive 7i. Since these are all like terms, you have to combine all of them. So negative 2 plus 6 is 4. 4 plus 7 would make 11i. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit to the problems that get a little harder. All right, here we have parentheses for the first time. Let's do this one. So here you see there's actually two different kinds of like terms. This 9 is a constant, and this negative 4 is a constant. Similarly, this negative 3i is an imaginary number, and this negative 4i is an imaginary number. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine like terms. 9 minus 4 equals 5, positive 5. And then a negative 3i and a negative 4i, since they have the same sign, you want to combine those two. Negative 7i. So if we want to write this as a complex number, we're going to write 5 minus 7i. Right, this one's very similar. And you'll notice once we get into the slightly harder ones that they're actually going to start using multiple terms and soon fractions. Let's go ahead and do this one together. So you want to identify all of your like terms, but if you'll notice, this negative sign also applies to the parentheses. So since you're subtracting 7 and positive 17i, you really are subtracting this and this. So what I would do is I would actually write this out. So you have 14i minus 7 minus 17i, because you're subtracting that whole thing in the parentheses. So this 17i is also going to be negative. Think of it like distributing the negative sign. Plus 3 minus 12i. Nothing changes there because you're adding that, not subtracting it. That's an I. So let's go ahead and combine like terms. We have positive 14i, negative 17i, and negative 12i. So let's see, 14 minus 17 would be negative 3, and negative 12 would be negative 15i. And that's our B term because that's in front of the I. So we'll see, what do we write for A? Well, what we write for A is going to be negative 7 plus 3. Negative 7 plus 3, the bigger number is negative, so it's negative, and it's bigger by 4. So negative 4 minus 15i should be our answer. This one's similar. Here you would distribute the negative sign to this, distribute the negative sign to this, and distribute the negative sign to this. So all three. So since this has a lot to do, let's do all three of them. So you distribute the negative sign here, distribute the negative sign here, and distribute the negative sign here because you're subtracting all these. So all the signs are going to flip basically. So let's go ahead and see what we get. We get negative 7i minus 20 minus 1 minus 10i minus minus 7i minus times a negative, that's a positive 2. Now we look for like terms. So we have negative 20, negative 1, and positive 2. Negative 20 and negative 1 make negative 21, plus 2 would be negative 19. And then let's look at the i's. Negative 7, negative 10, so that would be negative 17, and negative 7i would be negative 24. Remember, when it's the same sign, you just add them together and keep the sign. Just like if they were all positive, you would just add them together and keep the positive. If they're all negative, you add them together and keep the negative. 19 minus 24i. Let's see what happened. Oh, I think I wrote it. I just forgot to write it at the end. Okay, let's make sure that we learn from our mistake, and we make sure that we include the negative sign if we've had it throughout. Got it. Let's jump a little bit higher. Here we have some decimals. So let's go over this one. Let's see, here we have a negative 6.9i and a negative 0.3i. Remember to line up the decimals. Since these both have an I in them, we're combining like terms. And when we add these together, you are actually going to get negative 7.2. Think of these as keeping the sign, right? You owe someone $6.90, you owe someone else 30 cents. You owe a total of $7.20. So this would be negative 7.2. Don't forget your I. Here's a very similar problem. Again, similar problems. And here's something that you might have to review. So I'm going to take you through this one also. All right. So here we have negative 8i over 3, or divided by 3, minus 9i divided by 5. Now you can't add or subtract fractions until they have the same denominator. So what you need to do is multiply this side by 5, you multiply this side by 3. You multiply them by each other. You want to do that because you want the same denominator. But you can't just multiply two different things by two different numbers, which is why you have to multiply them by the same thing on top. Now, a lot of people don't understand why we have to do the same thing on top. Well, it's because 5 divided by 5 is the same thing as 3 divided by 3, because 5 over 5 is 1, and 3 over 3 is 1. When we multiply times 1, we're not really changing it. We're just changing what it looks like. So on top here, we'll have negative 40i. That's the 5 times negative 8i over 15 divided by 15 minus 9i times 3, which is 27i, over or divided by 15. So let's think about this as negative 40i, take away 27, that's going to be negative 67i divided by 15. So negative 67i, oh, I got a fraction first, excuse me, negative 67i divided by 15. All right, so for this one, we'll do one more. See how we could multiply these by each other? Or even easier, we can make a 2 into an 8 by multiplying it by 4. All we want to do is get the same denominator on bottom. But whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top because you can't multiply by something other than 1 without changing what it looks like. So this will give us negative 7i divided by 8 plus 36i, that's the 4 times 9, divided by 8. Negative 7 plus 36 will give us positive 29i. And then don't forget, this is just telling us how big the pieces are, what we're dividing by. Still dividing by 8. The denominator does not change. So this would be a positive 29i divided by 8. Once you get to 90, that's the A. That way you have 3 ribbons here. And you can work on these challenge problems. See if you can get to 100. Good luck.